Have you ever wondered why life feels like an uphill battle, even when you're doing everything right? Why, no matter how much you plan, push and strive, peace remains elusive? Why you often feel exhausted, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually? It's not the world that's making you tired. It's your resistance to it. There's a subtle kind of fatigue that doesn't come from action itself, but from constant inner tension. Tension from trying to control outcomes, to manage perceptions, to force clarity where there's only fog. You want to be better, do more, become something greater. You pressure yourself to smile when you're aching, to perform when your soul needs rest, to move faster in a world that's already racing nowhere. You're not alone in this struggle. Almost everyone is caught in this invisible war, fighting against reality, against uncertainty, against the natural rhythm of life. But what if the struggle isn't necessary? What if there's a way to live that doesn't drain you, but nourishes you? There is. It's called Wu Wei, a Taoist principle that Alan Watts brought to the Western world with a clarity and depth that still echoes today. Wu Wei means non-forcing, action without resistance. But don't confuse it with inaction. It's not about doing nothing. It's about doing without struggle, acting in harmony with the flow, not against it. Imagine a leaf floating effortlessly down a stream. It doesn't steer, it doesn't panic, it simply rides the current. Now imagine yourself doing the same with your own life. That's Wu Wei. And once you understand it, not just in your mind but in your heart, everything begins to shift. Why we're addicted to struggle? Since childhood, you've been taught to force things into place. Work hard, push through, don't quit, make it happen. These aren't inherently bad ideas, but taken to the extreme, they become a trap. You grow up believing that if you're not forcing life, you're failing at it. So you muscle through emotions, chase goals you don't believe in, stay in relationships that drain you, and fight against your own instincts. Because quitting feels like weakness, and pausing feels like failure. This is not ambition. This is fear, wearing the mask of productivity. Alan Watts once said, "Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone." But that goes against everything society has taught you. You've been programmed to stir the water, to fix, to manipulate, to analyze. And in doing so, you've forgotten how to let life settle on its own. Think about it. How often do you try to fix yourself, your thoughts, your habits, your emotions? You treat yourself like a broken machine, always needing an upgrade. But what if you're not broken? What if the only thing standing between you and peace is your unwillingness to trust life? Wu Wei is not a command to be lazy, it's an invitation to be wise. It's the principle of acting in accordance with nature. It's the understanding that flow is stronger than force, that just as rivers find their path not by cutting through stone, but by flowing around it, you too can live with grace instead of resistance. Imagine a surfer. They don't fight the wave. They read it, feel it, and ride it. The wave is bigger than them. It always will be. Their power lies in surrendering to it, not collapsing, but collaborating with it. That's Wu Wei in action. Now ask yourself, how many of your daily decisions are born from fear rather than flow? How many of your actions come from should rather than feel? How often do you override your intuition for the sake of appearances? The truth is, most people don't live their lives, they manage them. They manipulate time, relationships, emotions, and plans, always trying to get somewhere. But where? And what if the destination was never the point? What if life, like music, isn't about reaching the final note, but about feeling every moment along the way? The wisdom beneath the words. To truly understand Wu Wei, we have to go beyond philosophy. Taoism and Zen, where Wu Wei originates, aren't just intellectual systems. They are lived experiences. They point to truths that the mind cannot grasp, only the soul can recognize. Lao Tzu, the ancient sage of Taoism, famously wrote, "The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao." Why? Because the moment you try to define life, life moves. It evolves, expands, changes. You can describe the wind, but you can't trap it in your hands. Alan Watts understood this deeply. He didn't just study Tao and Zen, he embodied them. He didn't speak about life. He spoke from life. And through his metaphors of rivers, music, dancers, and wind, he made ancient wisdom feel modern, real, and urgently needed. Watts wasn't a preacher. He was a mirror. And when you listened to him, you didn't just learn something new. You remembered something you already knew but had forgotten. Letting go is an act of courage. Let's be honest. Letting go feels terrifying. When you stop forcing, you fear losing control. You fear falling behind. You fear being seen as weak, unmotivated, or indifferent. But Alan Watts reminded us that control is an illusion. You were never really in charge. You can't control the tides, or the weather, or people, or time. And pretending you can is what leads to anxiety, stress, and chronic disappointment. The real courage is in trust, trusting that life has its own intelligence, that the universe has a rhythm, a timing, a wisdom far beyond our anxious grasping, that if you stop clenching your fists, you might finally catch the very things you were chasing. Watts said, "Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. You can't force peace, you can only allow it." Picture a river again. You're swimming upstream, fighting the current, exhausted. But you don't stop, because stopping feels like failure. But what if the river isn't working against you? What if it's simply trying to carry you somewhere your mind hasn't imagined yet? If you surrender, not collapse, but surrender, you might discover that the river knows a better path, a gentler way, a deeper wisdom. Surrender isn't weakness, it's intelligence. It's realizing that clinging is what drowns you, not the water itself. This is what Alan Watts meant when he said, "When you stop forcing life, something truly magical happens. The right things begin to unfold, not because you wrestled them into place, but because you finally made space for them to arise. The real reason you're tired, it's not your job, not your responsibilities, not even your relationships. It's your resistance. You're tired because you're pretending to be in control of things that were never yours to command. You're tired because your mind races faster than your soul can breathe. You're tired because you're disconnected from the rhythm of life, from the Tao, from presence, from simplicity. And the cure isn't more effort, it's more trust. A new way forward. What if you began to trust life a little more today? What if you started small, by pausing when you're overwhelmed, by listening to your intuition instead of your fear, by allowing uncertainty instead of resisting it? Alan Watts offered us not a philosophy to memorize, but a lens to see the world through. A lens of softness, curiosity, and surrender. A way of being that's not passive, but deeply alive. This is not an escape, it's a return to yourself, a return to flow, a return to the quiet intelligence that's always been inside you, but that gets drowned out by noise, goals, and control. So take a breath, let your shoulders drop, and for once, just once, don't try so hard. Because maybe the moment you stop forcing life is the moment life finally begins to unfold. If this message stirred something within you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Someone else might be walking the same silent path, waiting for a sign that they're not alone. Stay grounded, stay thoughtful, stay awake. For more deep dives into philosophy, the human experience, and timeless truths, subscribe and turn on the bell. Wander the void with wonder. Question deeply. Think freely. Until next time, embrace the silence and let it speak.